Howdy guys, it's Joe here today talking again about Genji, this time talking about the Korean Genji, HAKSAL. And I feel like overall it's very good to just look at the different versions of Genji, and especially look at the different versions of people playing different characters around the world and seeing how different regions play a character. It's one of my favorite things to look at, and of course, you guys seem to really like to watch Genji videos, and a lot of people really like Genji, so here we are talking about him again. And as well with that said, if you do have any certain character or any certain player that you'd like me to talk about, please leave it in the comment section down below. Whoever gets the most upvotes, or whoever I guess gets the most comments about them, I'm going to talk about them next. So if you just have a person you want me to talk about, or if you feel like there's someone that's very good, there you go with that. Anyways, one thing that I feel like is very important to try to just think about while looking at all these different regions is, first off, see the, kind of how they put importance on different roles. In the United States, I feel like just how our culture works, I don't really know, but how our shooting game culture usually works is that we put a ton of results, we put a ton of expectations onto our DPS. We focus 100% on them, and you really expect some offensive DPS that gets a lot of kills, that goes in there and that carries their team. But in a lot of other regions, while DPS still does do a lot, they don't always focus completely on it. Right now, since D.Va's doing so well that she can counter the majority of DPS, you kind of have to focus a little bit more on some of the other roles, at least sometimes. Of course, DPS does still have its time to shine, but it's not going to be every single second. We can definitely see it here. He mainly waits until the situation works out well, and then he just kind of goes in when people are mainly out of position right here. Now, these are, of course, against very good players, and they are trying to stay in position as well as possible. However, we see HAKSAL just overall kind of positioning a little bit better. Of course, walking around corners, and one thing that I see him do a lot that I don't see, as much American Genjis do, I guess. I see them do it a decent amount, but I see this guy do a lot more, is climbing up walls all of the time, and jumping up walls and trying to get height advantage all the time. Now, I do see this, again, a decent amount from Americans, but I feel like especially this guy, he likes to get height advantage and actually shoot people from high up, which is actually a pretty nice thing to try to do as Genji, as for the majority of characters, such as Tracer, it's a lot harder for them to actually hit you, and of course, you can get a lot more headshots because you are a projectile-based character. It's something that you just might want to kind of think about, and when you are shifting anywhere, instead of just shifting back, it's a good idea to shift back and upwards at the same time. A really nice diagonal angle. There you go with that. Now, of course, he died right there, but he is coming back right here. Got two nice crisp kills, and mainly he uses his ultimate when people are somewhat out of position. Mainly when I see Genjis use their ultimates is when either A, someone's out of position, or B, they have a nice Zarya ult. But I feel like in a lot of solo queue games and a lot of competitive games, I've seen Genjis just kind of ult into the full enemy team of 6. And if you're one that does that, thinking that, there's 6 of them, I'll get the most damage done, that's probably not the best idea. I'd like to say that Genji's ultimate, while it is a very great team wipe ultimate, I'll include various many times as possible, it is really quite effective as well, though. Not always team wiping, but instead getting 1 or 2 picks and then helping your team just finish off the rest of the enemies. You do kind of want to think about it with those 2 different ways to use it, as I feel like a lot of people just kind of center themselves on one way to use it, and they don't really think about it way too much else. Now, another thing I want to mention about how this guy plays Genji is, again, of course, A, his height advantage and how he likes to use that, but B, how he really focuses on using left clicks, or I guess the 3 shurikens that you don't throw at the same time, the really long range ones. We see it a lot more from this guy, I'm going to say overall. When we see a lot of Americans, I feel like even at further ranges, a lot of them, like Shadow 2K, he chucks a ton of those things all over the place. And it does have a slightly higher DPS, but I guess you can get a bit more of course, far range damage, and I don't really know. At medium ranges, we see a lot more of these left clicks, a lot more trying to snipe the opponents, trying to kill them as quick as possible. Of course, when he gets to close range, he goes for those right clicks. There's no reason to really not do that, or I guess just his alternate fire. But yeah, again, at further ranges, or I guess more at medium ranges, you can kind of pick what you want to do, but I guess, it can work well like this. And I will say, especially with the height advantage idea, when you do have height advantage, using the left click or using the regular fire is much more effective than using the right click or the alternate fire, because the alternate fire is probably going to miss quite a few shots because the way that it's angled, it doesn't really shoot way too greatly from above, while the other one does shoot greatly. So it just kind of depends how you play. You do want to kind of remember that. It's not just because one is better than the other, it's just kind of just how you want to play the characters. As well with this, a thing that we see here is that there's not really anyone on the enemy team that focuses way too much on killing people in a huge amount of heights. We do see people such as Soldier, but he's really not staying next to Soldier, the Genji player right here. He's trying to stay away from him, maybe pop up at him at times, but overall, staying back a little bit more and not really dying to that guy. But there we go with the offense, of course, pretty quick. And yeah, they just steamrolled straight through that thing. The enemy team right here, of course, has a Widowmaker, I think. Yeah, there we go. We got some nice deflections trying to kill him. As well with that, we got that nice Winston bubble. Try to get as much poke as possible. The nice thing about going for a lot of left clicks is, of course, you can get a ton of chip damage, but I feel like as well, you do kind of feed a little bit more ult charge to the enemy support. So you kind of have to give and take what's more worth it for you, and just kind of go on from there. Now, a bit of a different thing I'd also like to mention is that while we do see double dive comp by both these teams, of course, that being Winston and D.Va on both teams, our Genji actually isn't diving way too much. And I think I want to say to you guys is that DPS doesn't always have to be super aggro to be good at DPS. And often, the best DPSs you will see are not super aggro. And every single Genji video I've uploaded, everybody's like, you know, that guy doesn't go in enough. I get a lot more kills. I go in all the time compared to this guy. But getting a lot of kills isn't always the only thing that matters. It kind of matters when you're getting them, and especially how safe you are getting those kills. Because if you're getting a kill, but then you're immediately dying after, you're trading 1 for 1. Sure, you might be getting a lot of kills, but you're really not helping your team win that much. You're essentially just leaving it to luck whether your team wins or loses the team fight. You do want to kind of keep that in mind. Of course, right here, tries to run away as best as he possibly can. Nice idea by him to not instantly pop the ultimate. I feel like a lot of people probably would, but there's no real reason to actually do that, as he is in the back right here. He is pretty safe. Unfortunately, there's the Winston right there, so that's not really the thing you want to do. And of course, again, trying to climb up the wall. Fortunate, dies, they lost force point, but, you know, whatever, not really way too bad. Again, right here, though, we see height advantage, trying to get people from above, trying to get headshots on that D.Va, and looking around the back, going straight for the headshot on that guy, and then jumping straight back up. Right there, you know, get that nano blade, go to the people straight into the back line. That's another thing I'd like to mention. If you do see someone like a Zen, a lot of the time Zen, it does, you know, block your ultimate, but I don't feel like he completely counters it like a lot of people say, as the Zen often can't really reach his entire team at the same time. People just don't really group up that well, and of course, if you do see a Zen ult, I'd say just, like, walk to the right or the left of the Zen ult, where not everyone's as grouped, and you can, of course, get quite a few picks as we saw right there. As well, before you actually ultimate as Genji, I'd say try to get like 1 or 2 headshots or body shots on your target if you are trying to get a single man ult, as it really helps you burst them a lot quicker, as the blade itself takes a little bit to get both of your charges through. And of course, the blade and your shift combo doesn't quite kill a lot of characters, but if you have a few hits and then you blade shift, that does work pretty well. Now right here, of course, getting a lot of right clicks, you know, killing as much people as you possibly can. Stuck in the hole right there, but luckily he does have Lucio, and if you do possibly have the chance to duel with the Lucio, I'd say that's probably one of your bets to do. This guy isn't, you know, he's just playing by himself, having fun, streaming or whatever, but if you can, I feel like that's one of your best things. Maybe he is dual queued. I think he's doing with that Tracer, actually. Never mind, scratch that. But yeah, if you can happen to dual queue with the Lucio, I feel like it's a really good idea. Mainly because, A, you can pick DPS without people being way too angry at you because you, of course, have a support. But B, as well, letting you engage and disengage, getting a lot of nice ultimates, making yourself be safe, and, of course, getting some nice healing, and him being overall be able to get kills with you, I feel like that's nice. Again, right here, we see him jumping straight into the back line. Essentially just ignoring the tanks. His teammates are trying to bait them out as much as he possibly can. But yeah, we see running to the back line without them really knowing what the heck is going on. A lot of the tanks are jumping a little bit away from their teammates, and I feel like some of you guys are probably going to be like, you know, my enemy tanks never do that. They're always right next to their team. But I'd say that's not true. In the majority of situations, the tanks will have to push up at some point for them to really get any ground. And if they do that, well, you can jump on the supports. Or if the supports aren't really up there, you can jump on the DPS. And I want to remind you guys, your not only target is the supports. Oh, see right there, jumping straight onto this McCree, trying to burst him down as quickly as possible. Come on. Nice, he got him. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of think that they have to, first off, always get the supports. And while that is a good strategy, as it can get you a lot of kills, and it can, of course, be very safe, as other people won't really kill you, if the supports are just safe, don't go for them. It should be really simple, but it's something that, I don't know, a lot of people don't do. Continuing on from here, though, we see that mainly he's just waiting back in the back line. He waits until somebody's out of place, and then he goes after them. He isn't really trying to force anything at all right now. He's just kind of waiting. Which is, I guess, you know, you could call it a little bit boring. You could say, you know, I wish that he was jumping on the cart more. I wish that he was going up towards the front more all the time. But, you know, it works really well. I don't know. It just seems like, overall, most people do want a very, very, very aggro. Again, I need to stop using that. But they want an aggro version of Genji. They want an aggro version of Tracer and an aggro version of all the DPS. And while that can work at times, especially if you're doing defense, you might want to be a bit more waitful and try to get more impactful ultimates and more impactful picks and more safe picks especially than just trying to get picks every single second, as that won't always work. Again, we can see the people in the back line being left alone. Of course, the Winston had to engage. If you wouldn't have engaged, there wouldn't have been much for them to do. Unfortunately, this time they kind of get demolished, but we see again, he did have the ability to get to the back line. Right there we saw that not all the time you'll be able to ultimate and be able to kill someone in the back line because they will stay next to their Zen, but you can do as he did and actually just save your ult. I feel like a lot of people just want to waste their ults in their fights because they want to make sure that they use it and that they have the highest chance to win that fight. But if you know that the fight is lost and you know that you're just going to be wasting your ult, just save it until the next one. Ult conservation, I'd say, is the #1 thing that makes players into like the best players in the game and can combo their ultimates and make sure they're all using him all at the correct time. I don't know. It's one of those things that just really puts players above the rest. And if you can save your ultimate for the correct time, and if you can know, maybe I should blow our ultimates right here, or if you're on defense and you're like, well, they're probably going to have a lot of ultimates soon, I should save mine. You know how to do that? That's going to carry you the most. And I feel like that's definitely carried me the most while trying to rank up slowly on my Reaper account, because Reaper's not that great right now. But this really does just apply to everyone, especially as Genji, because he has such a good kit and such a good ultimate that combos so well with his kit. You want to make sure that you aren't wasting that thing on some random bogus, and of course, especially a random Zen ult. But yeah, of course, again, you do see people to the side of Zen. It can be nice to get a few picks off there. And then finally finish off the Zen once his ultimate does conclude. And there we go. Kind of just finishing it off like that. But that's all I'm going to say about this guy. Overall, I feel like he's very good. And one thing I want to say is that there's not as much super high pro level stuff as I feel like a lot of you guys would wish to see. I feel like a lot of people want to know these exact top of the line tips. And while there is quite a bit that you can say, mainly it's just from looking at their gameplay, kind of hearing what people have to say about it, in my opinion, and just kind of going on from there and seeing how you can add the little things into your own gameplay. There aren't these super, huge tricks that can win you every single game if you do this exact thing with Genji, this exact combo. It's not a fighting game where you can practice these certain combos. It's very, very knowledge-based, when you should do this, when you should do that, and it takes a lot of time to learn. But, again, I'd say watching people can help you some of the most with that. And sorry, again, if you don't get those 100% going from 0 to 100 on the Genji skill scale, but I hope that this did help you at least a little bit if you did listen all the way through. Anyways, as always, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below again who you want to see for next time, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos in the future like this on really any character, and especially Genji, so you guys, again, do really like to see this guy. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a wonderful day.